I'm Jeff Mays of the New York Times, sitting in for Sam Roberts. Welcome to the New York Times Close Up. This week, we're joined by Julie Menin, Speaker of the New York City Council, who has quickly emerged as a leading voice on some of New York's most pressing challenges, from affordability and housing to public safety and economic opportunity. As the city struggles with rising costs and trust in government, Speaker Menin has become one of the key figures shaping how City Hall responds, working with Mayor Mamdani where their priorities align, and using the council's independent authority where they don't. Since taking the helm, Speaker Menin has pushed an ambitious agenda to ease the cost of living, from transit and childcare to housing. Her leadership has also been about lowering healthcare costs, making life more manageable for small businesses, and confronting issues like AI-generated political misinformation and security around houses of worship, all while navigating a complex political landscape in the council. Speaker Menin joins me now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be with you.
Yes, thanks for coming on. So let's just start at the beginning. You know, you still, what, 7 months into your tenure? Yeah. When you became Speaker, or when you were running for Speaker, what did you think the job of Speaker was, and how has that lined up with the reality now?
Well, it's an honor to be Speaker of the New York City Council. I've been in and out of government for a very long time. I started my career as a small business owner and lawyer. So I was in the private sector for a number of years, and then my business was decimated on 9/11, and that's how I first got involved in public service. I've served as commissioner of 3 different city agencies and been in the council now for 5 years. And so to be Speaker of the City Council, particularly at this pivotal time when we do have a lot of myriad challenges, the affordability crisis being chief among them, it is, I think, a very important time. We do want to make sure that we are tackling affordability in a very real and measurable way for New Yorkers, and really bringing the whole council together around that common goal.
Yeah, you've mentioned concerns about affordability and trust in government. I'm wondering, how do you see your role in helping to help the public, trust government more, or, be able to afford more affordable housing?
Well, trust in government is a very big issue. Around 9/11, at that time, the federal government and the city of New York said the air was safe to breathe for those of us that live downtown, for all of the first responders. That was patently untrue. And sadly, so many New Yorkers, my mother being one of them, lost their lives due to 9/11 related cancers. Now we are finally demanding the disclosure 25 years later of the 9/11 related files. But we do need to make sure that trust in government is high. I served as a 2020 census director, and that was a real challenge to get many New Yorkers who were very distrustful of filling out the census to overcome that and to fill the census out. We actually were able to finish #1 of all cities across the country on the census, largely because we messaged out about the importance of filling out the census, and we were able to overcome that distrust in government. So that's something I spent a lot of years on and will continue to press.
Just quickly, how do you view your role as Speaker in relation to the Mamdani administration? Are you a partner, or are you someone that helps keep checks and balances? How do you view your role?
Well, certainly there's a lot of commonality in terms of areas where the mayor and I align on around the affordability agenda. We will obviously be partnering on that, on universal childcare, on building more affordable housing. These are really shared priorities, and other priorities as well. But the council is an independent, co-equal branch of government. We have oversight over the city agencies, and so it's very critical to perform our oversight function. I think that is also how you build trust in government, to make sure that agencies are functioning at the highest level. So that's something that we are very focused on.
One area where you have been providing accountability has been the Legionnaires outbreak on the Upper East Side. That's your district.
That's my district, yes.
And so I'm wondering, what in your view went wrong with the way the city responded? There's 82 people, at least 82 people infected. 5 have died so far, several more in the hospital. What could the city have done better in regards to this outbreak?
Well, it's a tragedy what's happened on the East Side with Legionnaires, and we learned after the Harlem outbreak that we needed to take more aggressive action, which the City Council did. After the Harlem Legionnaires outbreak, the City Council passed a law sponsored by Councilmember Shulman that I was a co-sponsor of, that required building owners to test once a month during the summer months and provide that data to the city. In the East Side outbreak that is still ongoing, quite frankly, right now, 25% of the buildings were not not compliant with that law. So what should the city have done? Well, first of all, we know that Legionnaires comes out in the summer months, so it's not a surprise. We need to make sure that the city health department is truly enforcing that city council law, that they're making sure that they're aggressively fining non-compliant buildings, that they're following up with those buildings to demand the test results. That is really what we want to see moving forward. In addition, and we're going to be doing a package of legislation on Legionnaires and holding a hearing in the coming weeks, we want to make sure that more information is flowing back to affected communities. So for example, Jeff, if you're immunocompromised or you have a family member who's immunocompromised, there really hasn't been guidance around what are you supposed to do. One of the people that died, sadly, was a 32-year-old doctor who was immunocompromised. And I spoke to her family, she said that she didn't get any information that there were even positive test cases in her building. She said if she had known that, she would have taken the necessary precautions.
I mean, you've talked about residents being kept in the dark and the need for better public reporting. I'm wondering, will this legislation address some of those changes? And are there specific changes you'd like the administration to make now and how they respond to these Legionnaires outbreaks?
Absolutely. First and foremost is a flow of information. So for example, we want the health department to actually issue preventative guidance. What are people supposed to do? If you're immunocompromised, are you supposed to stay inside if at all possible? Are there preventative measures that you can take? How can we legislate that in terms of a public awareness campaign? So that's what we're going to be doing. But also, how do we ensure that the health department in future outbreaks gets that information about positive tests out faster so that people have that information and can make those decisions accordingly? In addition, making sure that the commissioner does the commissioner's orders to disinfect the buildings. The commissioner did do that, but it took some time to do that. And so I had pushed very hard for them to more proactively disinfect non-compliant buildings, the ones that were in the 25% non-compliant category, because I think that would have honestly prevented more people from contracting it.
Is this about transparency in government? Does there need to be more transparency around these issues?
There does. There needs to be more aggressive action. Legionnaires is never a surprise. We know it happens in the summer months. It happened in the Bronx years ago. It happened in Harlem. It's now happened on the east side of Manhattan. So we know we need to be prepared coming into those summer months, making sure that all buildings are in compliance, making sure that as soon as cases are identified, we're looking at, well, wait a minute, which buildings can we order the proactive disinfecting of? That will prevent more cases from spreading, of course.
Let's move on. The mayor, Mamdani, recently made news when he said that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, should be arrested if he came to New York City for the UN in September. I'm wondering, when the mayor makes those sort of comments, how do you view the council's role in dealing with that? Because this New York City is an international city. We have lots of dignitaries coming here, right?
We're an international city, but I'm honestly, Jeff, focused on what's happening here in New York, not what is happening abroad, because again, I'm Speaker of the City Council. We are not an international body. Right now, we're in the middle of a significant public health crisis with Legionnaires. 5 people have died in my district. 7 additional ones are hospitalized right now. So I'm really focused on those issues. I think they're incredibly important. I do agree with the mayor that the mayor and the city law department and the city of New York does not have the right to arrest foreign leaders. Like, that is not something that is in the legal purview. And I think our focus has to be on some of the urgent issues that are happening right here in our city.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you think the mayor is too distracted by this issue? He is the mayor of New York City, the largest city in the country. We understand, political issues will come up. But is he too distracted focusing on Israel and Netanyahu?
I think the focus right now has to be on New York City. Again, we're really in the middle of a public health crisis. I have hundreds and hundreds of constituents in my district who are incredibly concerned about their loved ones who've contracted Legionnaires. Are they going to contract Legionnaires? We have a lot of public housing in that district. A lot of the NYT residents are really upset about that. And we've got other issues obviously happening in the city. We have affordability crisis. We're trying to build more affordable housing. That is an urgent, pressing issue that we need to focus on right now.
Another issue that's been in the news is horse carriages. You recently backed a plan to end the use of horse carriages in the city. I'm wondering, how did you come to that decision?
Yeah, well, so it was really what happened to Ramansh Mahajan, who sadly lost his life. He was 18 years old. He had come from India with his mother, his father, and his younger brother. They rode a horse carriage. The horse bolted, got spooked, and his mother was thrown from the horse carriage. Ramansh tried to reach down to save his mother, and then he fell from the carriage and hit his head and sadly died. And so really the issue to me, Jeff, is that 42 million visitors come to Central Park each and every year. The Central Park Conservancy came out last year saying they do not believe that it is appropriate to have the horse carriages in Central Park anymore. It's in a very crowded area. It becomes a public safety issue when the horses get spooked. With that said, we obviously need to ensure that these horse carriage drivers who have given their life to this industry are protected. And so we want to make sure that any legislation has strong worker protections. We need to really guarantee jobs for those workers. We also need to figure out what do you do with the medallion owners. So these are all issues that we are focused on. And I think it's absolutely possible to chart a path forward where the bill has very strong worker protections. So that is my goal, to add that language into the bill and really also focus on the medallion owners as well.
Yeah, that was one of the criticisms from TWU, the union that represents the horse carriage drivers. They said that they felt that program to help these drivers transition into new careers, new jobs was not strong enough. What changes are potentially coming? The mayor also expressed a similar concern as well. So I'm wondering, what changes do you see coming to that program?
And I agree with that statement, which is why all of my public statements on this issue have said we have to protect the workers. So we've been meeting with TWU, we've been having a lot of conversations with them. We need to add in language that really makes sure that these drivers and the medallion owners are protected. Under the bill as it stands now, the sunsetting would occur over 2 years. So the industry would still operate for another 2 years, really to June of 2028. But the protections we need to add into the bill, we need to make sure that these workers are guaranteed gainful employment, whether it be in animal welfare, whether it be in the hospitality, tourism, or other industry. But that's something that I'm deeply committed to, and we absolutely need to add to the legislation. I'm confident we can do that.
Yeah, you and the mayor don't agree on everything, but affordability is an issue that you guys both agree on. I think that's one of the biggest issues facing the city. What is the council doing to help improve affordability for you?
It's absolutely one of the biggest issues affecting the city. So I'm very focused on affordable housing and really trying to position the council as a partner in addressing the affordability agenda. Generally, the City Council on land use has been a more reactive body, meaning we wait till land use applications, also known as ULURPs, come to us and then we react. What I'm really focused on is getting the council to think outside of the box and to do some more proactive ideas. So that's exactly what we've been doing in the City Council. We put out 2 big ideas. One is to build 100% affordable housing on top of public libraries. So we have surveyed the 215 public library branches, and we found that many of them are suitable to build 100% affordable housing on. So that is really exciting, and it's a win-win because we would at the same time completely rebuild the libraries that are at the base of these new affordable housing developments. So that's a win for the community because they get a brand new state-of-the-art public library and 100% affordable housing on top of it. The second idea that we put forward is small lots. We mapped out 2,850, to be exact, small lots around the city. And those small lots are those small vacant parcels that are overgrown with weeds.
Shaped, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes rats, unfortunately. You walk by them, you're like, what on earth is that? Well, it's a small lot. And we believe that we could develop 35,000 units of housing, a lot of which would be affordable, by developing those small lots. All we need to do, and this is what we're looking at doing right now, is make some changes to the construction code to make some sensible reforms that will unlock the building potential of those small lots. So that's exactly what we're focused on, and I'm really excited about that. And then we have put forward, and I really want to thank my colleagues for their great work on it, we have approved many, many ULURPs throughout the city that have created thousands and thousands of new units of affordable housing.
The mayor has promised 200,000 new units of housing. It still seems like that may not be enough to keep up with the affordability crisis. I'm wondering, what do you think about his plan, his proposal, how the administration has moved so far on building affordable housing?
Well, look, this is one of the #1 priorities, so we look forward to partnering with the mayor and the administration on the affordability agenda. I think 200,000 units of housing is absolutely mission critical. We have to have that housing, and so we'll be partnering closely on making sure that for everything that falls within the City Council's domain, that we are doing everything in our power to approve more construction and preservation of affordable housing, because it's not enough to only build more affordable housing. We need to preserve the existing affordable housing. So, for example, we just had a hearing last week on Mitchell-Lama. We know that certain Mitchell-Lama developments like Tracy Towers in the Bronx are facing a real rent increase of up to 31% over the next couple of years. That's of great concern. So we had a hearing with HPD there to say, look, we understand these buildings need to be improved. We get that, but we cannot allow Tracy Tower residents and other Mitchell-Lama residents around our city to face a 31% rent increase. That's not acceptable. So we really need to work collaboratively to figure that piece out.
You recently completed your first budget as speaker.
Yeah.
Some of the issues in there have been an increase in the Fair Fares program, sort of an omni-pilot for CUNY students as well. And so I'm wondering, what are the big victories that you feel came out of this budget season?
Sure, a number of things. First of all, on City FEPS. City FEPS is an incredibly important program because we do not want New Yorkers remaining in the shelter system. We want to have them transitioned into supportive housing. And so we did an expansion of City FEPS for this year and next year, but at the same time we passed a new City Council bill. We were able to get an agreement with the mayor where he dropped the litigation against the council on City FEPS, and we reached a settlement with the administration around City FEPS that involved a new bill that the council passed that creates a new voucher program that takes a program away from an entitlement program and makes it one subject to appropriations. And the reason, Jeff, that that's important is because the prior City FEPS program was ballooning and we had concerns about would it even be sustainable. So this put some guardrails around it, and so I think that was a very important victory. You mentioned Fair Fares. We fought really hard for this, for the expansion of Fair Fares. The biggest expansion the City Council has ever done, which covers an additional 340,000 New Yorkers. So in total, 1.3 million New Yorkers who will now be eligible for Fair Fares for this discounted subway, bus, and paratransit. So that's really important. And then the other big win that we had was on NYC Kids Rise, which was a program that I helped to create over a decade ago that provides college savings accounts for all kindergartners. So now we're seeding every public school kindergartner with $1,000 in a college savings account. And that's so important because studies show that low-income children who have a college savings account are 3 times more likely to go to college, 4 times more likely to graduate from college, but just as importantly, earn double the wages over the course of their lifetime. So if we really want to tackle income inequality, this is one of the single best ways we can do that.
Well, the mayor was and the administration were not necessarily on board with Fair Fares, for example. They're focused on free buses.
Right.
They also fought against the FHEPS expansion because of the cost, how costly it will be. And, one newspaper, said that maybe you're a little more progressive than the mayor. I don't know. Were you surprised to be arguing about those issues with someone who has made affordability and livability in the city their top platform priority?
Look, I think Fair Fares is so important, and so we were really focused on it. I think at the end of the day, I believe it's really important that we're subsidizing fares for those that can least afford those fares. So that was something we fought really hard to. On City FEPS, the same thing. These are our most vulnerable New Yorkers. Why would we keep them in the shelter system? By the way, it's the right fiscal thing to do as well, because under the FEPS program costs $54 a day versus about $250 to house a New Yorker in the shelter system. So it's not only the right thing, quite honestly, morally to do, it's the right thing to do fiscally. So that is why I fought very hard for it, because I thought, honestly, both of these programs were the right thing to do and really important to protect our most vulnerable New Yorkers.
One of the other important issues in the city is universal child care. The mayor unveiled a plan and got state funding successfully to start to launch that program. There was criticism of the last administration that, they weren't doing things properly. There needed to be more oversight of how they were managing the program. Is the council looking at the mayor's push for universal child care, making sure that, kids get seats, near where they live, for example, and that people are aware of this program and applying for it.
Absolutely. Universal child care is so important. In the last council in 2022, the council passed 5 bills. I had 5 bills in the package, and many of my colleagues had other bills in the package as well to create universal child care. But the last administration did not do that. And so we did have some, aggressive oversight last time about, well, why didn't this happen? We will continue with the oversight because that is really incredibly important. And one of the things that we can do on the council side, and we've been doing this, we passed a whole suite of legislation to try to make it easier to build more child care facilities, because we know so many child care facilities sadly have closed, and they've closed and a lot of times because of late payments from the city. They've closed because of regulatory burdens. So we're trying to break down some of those burdens and some of those barriers and try to make it easier and faster for new child care facilities to open, so we can be a real partner with the administration in providing universal child care.
You also proposed the Office of Healthcare Accountability. You saw that as a way to help New Yorkers save money and help with the affordability crisis. I'm wondering how is that office working out, or have their savings been utilized yet and funneled back into the budget?
Absolutely. It is such an important office. So we created this office under my bill about 2 years ago, and now it's up and running at the Department of Health. And one of the key things of that bill is that it requires the hospitals to disclose the price of every single medical procedure. So for example, if a woman is giving birth by C-section in New York City, at one New York City hospital, they'll be charged $55,000 for that C-section. That same C-section at another New York City hospital is $17,000. And I could give example after example. Now those prices are all disclosed on the website of the Office of Healthcare Accountability. And it has saved money, because by harnessing our purchasing power, and the city of New York is the second largest purchaser of healthcare in all of New York State, we can lower healthcare costs. And we did just do that. So the city saved about $1 billion by basically contracting with a new healthcare provider on the insurance side. And so that new RFP that the city released actually saved the city $1 billion. And there are more savings to be had, because I'm a big believer that we should be meeting with these hospital CEOs and saying, we again are the second largest purchaser. We need to harness that power, and we need these hospitals to lower some of their costs.
Small businesses is also your area of expertise. You've worked in government with small businesses. I think you were a small business owner.
I was a small business owner, yeah.
As well. The mayor just recently introduced plans to reduce fines and fees to help small businesses. What is the council doing to help small businesses? Are you in agreement with the mayor's push?
I'm definitely in agreement with the mayor that we need to cut down on red tape and bureaucracy. Because right now, 5,000 small businesses closed this past year, so more small businesses closed than opened. That's a very troubling statistic, and so we need to have an all-hands-on-deck approach. The council last week passed Councilmember Susan Zhuang's bill, which basically is called Cut the Red Tape Act, and it makes it easier for small businesses to open, because we were hearing, Jeff, from some small businesses where it's taking 1.5 years for them to open. And that is ridiculous and absurd, and we can't have that. So we're really working to try to do that. In addition, we want to lower fines on small businesses. When I served as commissioner of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, we lowered fines by 1/3 on small businesses and gave small businesses 30 days to cure a violation, as long as it wasn't a major safety violation. So I would like to see this, and this is something we're looking at, extending those fine reduction strategies to all fine assessing city agencies. So whether it's FDNY or DEP or the Department of Buildings or the Health Department, those are the kind of strategies that we're looking at right now.
When you were running for speaker, you said you wanted to use the power of the council, even subpoenas, to hold bad actors responsible.
Yes.
Has any of that happened? Have any bad actors been held responsible?
So we're looking at that right now, because right now we have certain companies that are flouting New York City laws, particularly consumer and worker protection, which is a type of law I practiced for a long time in the agency that I used to lead. So we are actively looking at a number of different companies that have routinely and flagrantly flouted the city council laws, to see what we can do. and to see how we can bring them into compliance and potentially utilize our subpoena power to do just that. In addition, we're looking at banning surveillance pricing and certain types of dynamic pricing. So I'm carrying the surveillance pricing bill, which would literally ban surveillance pricing, which is a utilization of people's personal data online. If you're shopping online on your phone or on your computer, companies are mining that data and overcharging people by utilizing that data. And then dynamic pricing, where literally you can go into a grocery store and the price of a banana, when you put it in your cart, by the time you check out, it's actually jumped in price. That's not okay. So we're looking at banning both of those practices and really being at the forefront on this key consumer protection issue.
Quickly on AI, you've also been involved in that, more data transparency, ending sort of deepfake political ads. How important is that for the council to step in and weigh in on AI?
I think it's really important because we're seeing campaigns utilize AI in very nefarious ways. And again, I'm a big believer in truth in advertising. You need to make sure that when you've got campaign ads, they are truthful and not deceptive. So the bill, and it's my bill and I introduced it last session, would actually require disclosure that people utilize AI. It's not okay to be utilizing AI and distorting people's voices in campaign ads, distorting what their appearance, making it look like they were doing or saying certain things that they actually never said. None of that is acceptable, and so we really do need to step in and have some guardrails around that.
I want to step back a bit because, in your role in criticizing the city's handling of the Legionnaires crisis, the mayor was asked about his response. He said he thought that was political in nature. I'm wondering, how do you respond to the mayor saying that he was less interested in politics and more interested in public health?
Well, I think it should only be about public health. I don't think it's political at all. On the contrary, I was very, very critical of the Adams administration's handling of the Legionnaires outbreak in Harlem, and I was very vocal about it in the media and in the hearings. And so similarly, unfortunately, we've had some issues around this Legionnaires response. And so I view it as the City Council's role of, when there are issues where we need to improve the functioning of government agencies, it's our role then to legislate that. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to have an oversight hearing around Legionnaires. We're going to hear testimony from family members who sadly lost loved ones. We will hear from New Yorkers who were affected by Legionnaires, who have concerns about Legionnaires. We'll listen to public health officials. We'll listen across the board to every stakeholder. And that's government's job, is if there's a problem, we want to work to be able to improve it, improve communication, improve public awareness campaigns. So I don't view that as politics at all. I view that really as part of our job. You just started your tenure. We're a few years away from the next mayoral election. But if you talk to folks around town, some people always name you as a potential mayoral candidate. Have you given any thought to that? You're term limited after this term. Have you given any thought to the idea of potentially a run for mayor? No, I'm not running for mayor. I'm really very focused on running the city council. This is an honor of a lifetime to serve as a city council speaker. It requires a 24/7 mentality, and that is what I'm focused on, 24/7 running the city council. I am honored that I can serve in this capacity. I have 3.5 more years on the job, and I look forward to completing every day of that and really just focused on that.
Great. We'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Speaker Menin, for joining us. We appreciate your discussion of how the city's running.
Thank you, Jeff, so much for having me.
That's it for our show. For the New York Times and CUNY TV, I'm Jeff Mays. If you've enjoyed these conversations and want to support more programs like this, please consider donating at the link on your screen. Thanks for watching.